camera is on.
Welcome to Nights at the Round Table, a round table discussion on speculative fiction books and film.
Hello everyone! I am Marjolaine, standing in for Sonia, and welcome to Nights at the Round Table. I'm here with Jamieson and with Garth, and we are discussing Tremontaine Season 1 by Ellen Kushner's and many, many others. So, first impressions, Jamieson?
First impressions, it was like reading a soap opera as a book, you know. There were so many characters, so many different storylines, and I love the fact that at the end they weren't all resolved. No, I loved it.
Great. Garth?
First impressions. Well, I didn't really know what I was getting into when I started into this book, and I didn't realize it was by many different authors. I thought it was just by this one person until the chapter where it goes, "Now, dear readers," and I'm like, "Wait a minute! It has never done this before. This is a complete change in style. What's going on here?" And then I realized, "Oh no,
Different person.
every single chapter or episode is a different author."
Well,
and I'm just like, oh well, that changes much. So it's a story written by round robin style, and I found it rather interesting. I didn't find it that amazing, but it did certainly get me into the world there.
Okay. I also really enjoyed the story. I found it very interesting. I listened to the audiobook, so that was a complete... I don't know if you listened. It was a different experience.
Okay.
And it was really a well-done audiobook on top of being a really good book. It won the Audie, I think, the prize for the best audiobook.
That's cool.
So yeah, and I really enjoyed my experience. I'm trying to think of something to launch the discussion. I know that it's a prequel work to the Sword Point series.
Yep.
Has anybody read Sword Point?
I haven't actually. I didn't know about Sword Point. The book was recommended to me, so you're going to love this. I'm like, okay. What I liked about it, though, is that you didn't need to read the series. You didn't need to know anything of the world to actually enjoy it. It stood on its own. So,
no, I never heard of Sword Point or its sequels before this book. And it really did. It was kind of standing on its own. Once I did know I did know it was a prequel actually when I got it, because the blurb said it was a prequel. But I didn't know anything about the later books. So about halfway through, once I realized that with multiple authors, I looked up the other books and found out some things some plot spoilers, I guess you could say. For later books in the series. So I knew what would happen to certain characters just from the blurbs of later books. Like I knew what would happen to the Duke.
okay.
And I kind of knew that Diane would make it through whatever was going
Oh,
on.
I was hoping for her to get her die or something by the end of the book, but she didn't.
She's...
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoilers. She's going to be just fine. She figures into Sword Point.
So it's not that far ahead of Swords Point. I haven't read Swords
15
Point
years
so
behind Swords Point.
Oh.
The timeline goes Tremontaine, Season 1. 15 years later is Swords Point.
Okay.
And then 15 years after that is For the Honor of the Sword. And then 60 years after Swords Point is the last one, the third book in the series.
Okay.
So, and the Duke figures into the second book. He's a major part of that. Diane figures into Swords Point, so those two at least survive the upcoming seasons of Tremontaine.
Good.
So yeah.
Okay. Something that I find interesting that might be another springboard for discussion, maybe if we stop agreeing on everything. The setting of the Swords Point series and of Tremontaine and all that is a city that doesn't have a name, very much deliberately so, and the setting is kept very, very vague.
Well, it can be anywhere.
Exactly. Do you think that it is anywhere?
I don't. I think that it's the city of adventure. It's not given a name because it really doesn't need one. The story doesn't go anywhere else, really. It's all set in the city, so it is the city. And it's actually in the story called just the city.
Oh,
Yes.
so it's never given a name in Swords Point either.
Yeah, Swords Point and the other books, it doesn't have a name. It's just the city.
Oh, I don't know. That's kind of cool. It keeps it open.
Yeah. I mean, but there is the world at large. I mean, I forget the name, but the traders,
Yes,
the chocolate traders, they come from elsewhere.
The
So
Kinwinnock traders.
the Kinwinnock trader.
And from the far off land, which is a cultural mishmash of various far off lands on Earth, that has all the chocolate and the vanilla and the spices, and they're the only ones who can navigate the oceans. And it's pretty cool because the people in the city, despite being semi-medieval in their technology level at least, still think the Earth is flat.
Well, yeah, and there was the whole storyline with Mika trying to figure out a way of the traders and the way they navigated the Earth, and then Cobb accidentally let slip, what was going on. I liked that play on that she was trying to sort of sabotage them but help them along at the same time.
Well, she let it slip accidentally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was trying to fix her mistake by screwing them over.
Yeah, the multiple sabotages that followed.
Yeah, and she just keeps trying, but Micah's just too smart.
I love Micah.
She has no idea that she's being sabotaged, but she's like, oh, this doesn't make sense. And then eventually she figures out that, Cab was leading them in the wrong direction, and she's just like, but she doesn't realize it was intentional.
Yeah.
So she's
Yeah,
like,
she
oh
just thinks they
shit,
made a terrible mistake.
they're all going to die. I have to go warn them not to set sail because their charts are wrong and they're going to die.
That was awesome.
So, yeah, having autistic, sort of like high functioning autistic Micah, and just sitting there being Rain Man for everybody.
What was either autism or like Asperger's? It's never again made clear what she.
Well,
lives with.
Asperger's is on the spectrum.
Okay.
So when I say high functioning
okay.
autistic, I mean someone on the spectrum because clearly she had issues with people and with being social
Being
and
touched and
being touched and
Finding her way to places. She
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
follow the street
She
necessarily.
doesn't follow
She makes her
direction.
own map.
She has this mental map that she has to make. Street names mean nothing to her. It's all about this many steps. Like it's all math to her.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool having a character like that. I mean, and she did really well up until the point that people started yelling at her.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of a classic trope. The high functioning autistic with savant syndrome, which is what Mika has. So she's an exceptional mathematician, but incapable of just dealing with life and interacting with people in the same way that other people do. And makes her a good character. I liked it.
No, at first I didn't know how to take her because I mean, I was trying to figure out what she had, and it's never said. But then you just realize that this is who she is, and she's rather endearing as a person.
Well, very endearing.
Yeah.
What I was trying to figure out is how old she is. I couldn't figure it out because the way she thought was very childlike, at least at first.
But she was old enough to get into university.
But yeah, she's old enough to be in university, and nobody questions it.
No, so it's not like she's really, really young. So I would assume.
Well, we
Well,
don't.
she's
It doesn't
younger
look like
than-
there's necessarily an age factor to going to the university either.
No, there isn't. There doesn't seem to that. But she's old enough to fit in amongst these older boys because she is younger than them. That's known that she's younger, or at least appears that way because they all think she's a boy. She's younger than them, but not so young as to be a child. She is a teenager of some sort, is what I'm thinking. So maybe
Or some figure of age, women, flat-chested, able to pass for a teenage boy.
yeah, she's able to pass for a boy for boys who aren't paying attention. Like Rafe. Rafe just isn't paying attention.
Has no idea.
And never will.
And-
Well, from what we can tell, none of his roommates are either.
No.
No. But
Well, and
Cobb is the only one who
Cobb
pays
knew-
attention.
She knew right away, but that was kind of cool.
yeah, okay, Cab knew right away.
Does he know you're a girl? No. Yeah.
Is this important? She's like, if he doesn't ask, I won't tell him. And it wouldn't have changed Rafe's opinion of her. He just didn't think that way.
No.
Well, I mean, at the beginning of the book, he was so focused on himself and on his own internal world and what he wanted and what he needed. And what I liked was when he, fell in love with William. It was then about someone else. His focus changed. It was less internal and more on, starting to realize the world around him, the world that William was part of too.
Yeah, I mean, he still has his ambitions, but his ambition changed at the end of the book from opening a school and educating everyone to save my lover from his terrible fate.
Yeah.
And destroy Diane. Destroy the Duchess, yes.
Oh, I was hoping she would go down, but
she's not going down.
And I was hoping all through season. I read season 2 as well, and nope, doesn't go down either. But spoiler. But no, I mean Diane is she's a tricky character too, because at one point you want to hate her. On the other hand, I mean, my God, she's this evil, malevolent person, and you just admire her for what she's done.
Well, she's not malevolent. She's not. She can. Evil is kind of iffy on her, but she's political, and she's about power. But she's not doing things, except what she did to Rafe. She's not doing things specifically to hurt people. She's doing things to maintain her position in society, because that's what she is completely interested in. Her position in society.
Yeah. I know, but it leads her to do evil things.
Yes, but she isn't malevolent about it, again, other than what she does to Rafe. She's absolutely and malevolent on that.
Yeah,
and William.
And William.
Yeah.
Well, what she does to William, she does because he's threatening her position in society.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but just hide him away. Put him away somewhere. Don't,
careful.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Well,
it's bad.
As if spoilers aren't enough. Like, we've already gotten some spoilers.
Yeah.
No, we've got some spoilers, but let's not be too precise.
Too precise. What happens to the Duke? What she does to the Duke is mean, yes, but it's the only way to get him out of the way. What she's trying to do is to stop him from interfering with her position in society. And he's going to interfere with her position. He's going to mess with her deal with the traders. Yeah. He's going to, he's already messing with her by taking up with Rafe. So that, alone, him taking up with Rafe, she could deal with. But the fact that Rafe is getting him into other stuff, and it's ruining her ability to manipulate him and to use him to increase her position in society. But she can't kill him, and because she still kind of has feelings for him. She still kind of loves him, and killing him would only make things bad for her in society. So what she does is she makes him what she does, and that secures her position as the person who is in charge. Because remember, if you read part of the backstory, is there was a queen of the land. Yes, they love calling things the land, the city. Yeah. It's almost like Eric had a hand in naming things here. So the land was once divided into the north and the south, and it was united by this queen whose king had exactly the same problem that the Duke ends up having. For exactly the same reason, one would think. And this queen, who is also named Diane, I believe, is...
No, I think her name was Marjorie or something.
Marjorie, yeah, could be. Was very much this celebrated figure for taking the reins of the country with her poor, indisposed husband. And so Diane is playing on that story that is accepted within the culture and using it to her advantage, so she can do all that and secure her position in society, and also be totally in control of House Tremontaine. And so that's what she's doing. It's not malevolent. She's not trying to hurt William. She's just trying to keep him out of the way.
Yeah, she's still someone I love to hate.
Absolutely.
I know, and I'm a little bit sad about that, because from the first chapter I really liked Diane. Actually, she wasn't doing anything wrong at that point, and when she started devolving into that evil band, it was...
It's progression.
It's progression, yeah. I am a little bit disappointed about that progression.
Well, I mean, she managed. She
does get what she wants, so I guess that's
yeah, that's her story arc, if you will.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I love the book because each of the characters has their own, path. Yeah, the character arcs, it feels very epic because they all have their own starting point, and then they, develop and they change. They're not the same person as they were at the start of the book, which is nice because none of the characters remain static. And I don't know. I grew to care about them, and care about what happened to them, and Micah and Rafe and William. Diane not so much, but still I was cheering for. But no, I mean it was nice to have a book that you didn't just read; you wanted to live there.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. The character growth, it's something really hard to do in a round robin story.
Oh yeah.
Having character growth like that, where you start with a character in a certain way, and it's a natural progression. It doesn't feel like it's jumping or it's forced at any time. It's a smooth arc that these characters go through, where they start out in one place and they slowly evolve. And all of them do it. Every character, every main character that we get into the head of goes through a change and an arc.
Yeah, progression.
Yeah. I think it helped that Ellen Kushner was very involved in the direction of the story. She didn't write all the stories, but she was the main editor on all of them, so she would be smoothing out the rough edges. Yeah, because it is a prequel for her stories. She would have to be careful about continuation.
Well, she wrote the first episode and the last episode, didn't she? Yeah.
Yeah.
So at least she knew where it was going to start and end. More than likely, I mean, they would have had to have talked about all the storylines, though.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They would have had a discussion and plotted it all out in a certain way, and then each of them took one of the chapters for their own.
Yeah, I guess that's what I want. If it was like a big session, everybody together at the table planned, and then everybody takes a chapter, but they already know where it all ends, or was it a true round robin? Well, Ellen writes chapter 1 and then sends it up to Router for chapter 2, and then I don't think so either.
I don't think this was a true round robin. I think it really was plotted all out beforehand, and everyone got a chapter of this already known story to put their own imprimatur on.
Yeah.
So a kind of cool way to do it, well, to know. Yeah, I don't know. I'd imagine that would be limiting in one respect because you'd want to tell your own portion of the story your own way, but then having to stick to what Ellen Kushner wanted. But still.
Yeah. Well, I'm forgetting the name, but whoever wrote episode 7, The Swan Ball, did put their own spin. That's the one that Garth was mentioning. Dear readers. And chapter, I forget which one, the one called Shadowroot, which was also different because it was the one that went into the backstory and correspondence with other people interjected into the story.
I mean, when they started sort of breaking the fourth wall, that kind of reminded me of Stephen King a bit because he does that in a few of his novels. Under the Dome, for example, he'll say oh well, dear reader, if you look at this section or look at what's happening here, and then he'll take you on a journey and then end up in another portion of the plot. But that's what I found with that one. It was really. It broke the wall, but it was kind of cool because it involved you more. It's like they were speaking directly to you.
I don't actually like that kind of fourth wall break in this story.
You know?
Unless it's going to be happening all the time.
Oh.
If Lemony Snicket style, where the entire story is told as this being narrated to you by some weird ass guy who's just pulling this stuff out of his hat. But the way this worked, it was just the one chapter, and it was jarring to me, and it really drew me out of the story. And made me start thinking about its structure rather than its characters and its plot. And that, again, that's where I realized that the story was not just one author going all the way through. But once I did realize it, everything backwards kind of fractured for me as I started seeing the lines between the different writers. Up to that point, I was fully engaged, but after that, I was much more thinking about how it was written rather than what was written.
Even so, it's pretty amazing that aside from that one lapse, where Dear Reader, the breaking the fourth wall, it all sounded had the same tone all throughout. Aside from that one chapter, I was really impressed with that. It's how do you what, 11 people, or how many people wrote it? 10 or 11?
Yeah, something like that.
They all made it sound the same, which is really impressive. Because normally you have like 12 different 11 people, and they all have their own tone.
I would wonder how much Ellen Kushner had, as an editor, had influence on that. Because as I said, she was smoothing out the rough edges, so maybe she imposed a consistent tone across all. Maybe, I'm not sure. Now, the writers could have been very well deft enough to be able to handle keeping a consistent tone despite everything else. But I would imagine as the overall editor, she'd be able to impose some of that herself. But you're right. It did stay a consistent tone, which is why I never noticed until we hit that part. But after that, I couldn't help but notice everything that was going on. So it didn't work for me. That didn't work for me. The Dear Reader, for you, it drew you in. Yeah, like the story was talking to you. For me, it was pulling away from the story. The story was now no longer something I could be living in, but something that was being told to me. And I had to start thinking about it as a story at that point. Okay.
I saw that chapter as something that was exceptional because it was all the one day that led to the ball, and it was meant to be. I took it as something that was meant to be almost separate from the rest of the story, like a pivot point that stood on its own very deliberately, and so the change of style didn't bother me quite as much as it seems to have. I guess I'm somewhere midpoint between the two. It wasn't something that, oh, this is really cool, but it wasn't something that repulsed me either. It was just, oh, okay, I see what you're doing there. That's fine. Moving on. I guess also part of the listening to the audiobook might have helped, like, because I was getting the book narrated to me literally all along.
Yes. It might work much better as an audiobook. I don't like audiobooks, so I wouldn't listen to it that way, but it might work very much better on that. But yeah, no, the chapter was very important, the ball, because this being a manor punk book is all about that sort of stuff, the pageantry and the pomp and the what part of this party that will we have that we can talk about for years to come. And it's like, oh, this is a triumph, or this is a terrible. So that's a really important part, and it was actually really cool. I just found that the writing style threw me away. Okay.
Is manor punk a real thing? I mean, I saw this word described to describe that book, but are there other?
Yes, there are. Like Swords Point and the series is what they call manor punk, which is really a stupid term for it. It's kind of kickback to like old style, and I mean really old Jane Austen sort of deal, where everything is based on this dance of ecetiquette, and like all the characters in the story, especially the higher up echelons, Diane and such, have this etiquette that they have to stick to, and so they're all being very polite to each other, while at the same time, underneath the politeness, making jibes and attacks
and plotting behind their backs.
Strange and Gnarl is also considered manor punk.
Yeah. Oh,
that it's a kind of a subgenre of story, and yes, it does exist.
Sounds made up.
It does sound made up. I mean, it's called manor punk just because after cyberpunk, people just took punk and added it onto anything and decided that was the new genre. But cyberpunk as a word actually means something and describes what the story is about. Manor punk doesn't. It just means this is a story where people are very polite to each other while stabbing them in the back. So there you go. It's etymology for you.
Okay. So I don't know what else to talk about. Does anybody have
final thoughts?
How long are we into the story?
It'll be a shorter episode. We've got 5 minutes left.
Oh yeah, final thoughts time. We can't talk about all the characters then.
Okay, so final thoughts.
It was good. Makes me want to read Sword Point, actually. I'd probably read season 2 eventually, but I'm much more interested in the stories that this is based on, but come later. So I want to read Swords Point, and I want to read For the Honor of the Sword, because those, I think they're more endpoints for these characters, and I want to see where they end up, and that will be pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, actually, I have that thought too. Is I want to find out what happens to them, and find out what their endpoint is. But I have already read season 2, and I have, like I said before, season 3 is already pre-ordered on my Kindle. So I want to live there. I can't wait to go back. And just as a whole, the Tremontaine, it took me away. It really surprised me because at first I didn't know what the hell I was reading. And but when I got into it, by the end of the first chapter, I was like, oh, okay then. So like 5 stars, 6 stars, 10 stars. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Jamieson's star rating.
I'm only going to give it a 4 out of 5. It was really good, but there were some issues with it. The pulling me out of the story with the inconsistency of tone I only saw in retrospect after that one chapter. So it's really good. I just got to pull back a bit. So.
Sorry, I'm gonna go 4 out of 5 as well. It was really good. It was well-crafted character, a world that I found really interesting. But I only give 5 out of 5 to books that make me cry. It's a personal thing. So.
That's okay. That's your opinion.
Yes, it is. So now it's time to pick up the next book. Jamieson, since you're new.
Okay. Go this one. All right. Wizard of Earthsea.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ursula Le Guin. Yeah.
Ursula Le Guin. So there we go. Awesome.
So if you have more suggestions for future books, please leave them in the comment. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you all next time.
Bye.
Audio is recording. We're good.
Sweet.